Welcome back. This channel exists because of your support. Subscribe, hit like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Now let's get into the story. Some conversations burn themselves into your memory the moment they happen. This one didn't need to. I knew instantly it would never leave. I was loading the dishwasher after dinner when she walked into the kitchen. Thursday evening, nothing special, just another weeknight in our North Park apartment. Through the window above the sink, I could see the glow of downtown San Diego against the October sky. We'd lived here for 3 years, built what I thought was a good life together. She leaned against the counter with her arms folded and said it like she was commenting on the weather. "I need to tell you something. I don't feel drawn to you anymore." My hand stopped halfway to a plate. I set it down carefully, not dramatically, just deliberately. The dishwasher door hung open between us. I turned around and looked at her. She stood there with this expression I'd never seen before in our 5 years of marriage. Not angry, not sad, not even apologetic. Just matter of fact, like she'd been rehearsing this moment in her head and was relieved to finally get it out. "Okay," I said. "Thank you for being honest." The confusion on her face was immediate. She'd clearly expected a different conversation. Her arms uncrossed, and she shifted her weight from one foot to the other. "That's it? That's all you're going to say? What would you like me to say?" "I don't know. Something. Anything. Don't you want to talk about this? About us?" "About what specifically?" I picked up a dish towel and dried my hands. "You've told me how you feel. I can't argue with your feelings." She pushed off from the counter. "But we're married. Married people work through things. They don't just accept it when someone says something like this." "They do work through things," I said. "But I'm not going to try to convince you to feel something you don't feel. That wouldn't be fair to either of us." "So that's it? You're just going to give up?" "I'm respecting what you told me. If you're not drawn to me, you're not drawn to me. I'm not going to beg you to change your mind." I finished loading the dishwasher and wiped down the counters. She stood there watching me, clearly expecting more. Some big emotional reaction, maybe tears or pleading. When none came, she turned and went upstairs. I went to my workshop in the second bedroom. The space had become my refuge over the years. Turntables, tube amplifiers, and shelves of vinyl records lined the walls. I put on some Miles Davis and picked up where I'd left off on a Marantz restoration. First time in 5 years, she'd looked uncertain about anything. Later that night, I was already in bed reading an article about vintage audio equipment on my tablet when she came in. She went through her normal routine like the conversation in the kitchen had never happened. Brushed her teeth at the sink, humming softly. Changed into her usual pajamas. Climbed into bed beside me and settled under the covers. When she leaned over for our usual goodnight kiss, I turned my head slightly. She got my cheek instead of my lips. She pulled back. "What was that?" "What was what?" "You turned away." I set down my tablet and looked at her. "You said you don't feel drawn to me. A kiss between spouses should probably involve some level of attraction, don't you think?" "You're being ridiculous." "I'm being logical. You can't have it both ways. Either you're drawn to me or you're not. It was just a kiss goodnight. Between two people who are attracted to each other. You've made it clear that's not the case here." She stared at me in the darkness for a long moment. "So you're really going to be like this?" "Like what?" "I'm respecting your feelings. Isn't that what you want?" She didn't answer. I turned off the light on my side and settled into sleep. The silence between us felt heavy, but for the first time in months, I felt a strange sense of clarity. I knew where I stood now. That night, I slept soundly. The next morning, I woke at my usual time, 5:45. I changed into running gear and headed out into the cool October morning. Balboa Park was quiet at that hour, just a few other early risers and the sound of my footsteps on the path. I did my usual 5-mile loop, pushing harder than normal, needing to burn off the strange energy from the night before. Back at the apartment, I showered, dressed for work, and made coffee. The smell filled the kitchen. Normal Friday routine, but with one deliberate change. I sat at the kitchen table with my single cup, reading news on my phone. At 6:30, exactly on schedule, Amanda came downstairs. She was already dressed for work, hair still damp from her own shower. She walked into the kitchen and stopped, looking around like something was missing. "No coffee this morning?" I didn't look up from my phone. "Coffee's fresh. Help yourself." "You always bring me coffee." There was confusion in her voice, not anger yet. That was when I thought my wife was drawn to me. Things are different now. She stood there for a moment, then walked to the coffee maker. Poured her own cup. You're really going to be like this? Like what? I finally looked at her. I'm treating you the way someone treats a person who isn't drawn to them. With respect, but without the intimacy that comes with mutual attraction. That's not what I meant. What did you mean? She wrapped both hands around her mug. I don't know. I just thought we could still be normal. Normal? What's normal about a marriage where one person isn't drawn to the other? She didn't have an answer for that. I grabbed my keys from the counter and my jacket from the back of the chair. Have a good day, I said in the same polite but distant tone I'd use with a neighbor or coworker. Nothing more, nothing less. That evening when I got home from work, I went straight to my workshop without greeting her. I'd been working on restoring a vintage Marantz receiver for the past month, and the project needed my attention. The capacitors were shot, and I wanted to get them replaced before the weekend swap meet. 20 minutes later, I emerged to start making dinner. She was sitting on the couch in the living room, obviously waiting for me. Her posture was tense. We need to leave by 6:30 tomorrow for Julie's dinner. I pulled vegetables from the refrigerator and started chopping. You should go. Tell her I said happy birthday. She invited both of us. I wasn't planning on going. She got up from the couch and came to stand in the kitchen doorway. It's my sister's birthday. At the Marine Room. I understand. You should definitely go. It's a nice restaurant. What am I supposed to tell her when you don't show up? I kept my eyes on the cutting board. Tell her the truth. Tell her your husband isn't someone you feel drawn to, so couple dinners seem inappropriate. I can't say that to my sister. Then make something up. Tell her I'm not feeling well. Tell her I have to work. Tell her whatever you want. I don't really care. She stepped into the kitchen now, arms crossed again. You're punishing me for being honest. I set down the knife and looked at her. I'm protecting myself. There's a difference. Protecting yourself from what? From continuing to invest emotional energy in someone who doesn't want it. From pretending we're something we're not. We're married. Are we? Because marriage usually involves two people who are drawn to each other. You've established that's not our situation. She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it. Her face was flushed now, whether from anger or something else, I couldn't tell. I went back to chopping. You can tell Julie whatever you want. But I'm not going to sit through a family dinner and pretend everything's fine when you've made it clear it's not. I made dinner for one, a simple stir-fry with chicken and vegetables. Plated it, sat at the kitchen table, and ate while reading an article on my phone. She didn't eat. Just stood there watching me like she was seeing a stranger, which in a way, I suppose she was. Saturday morning, I was up early despite not having work. I'd been looking forward to the vinyl swap meet in Little Italy all week. There was a collector who'd mentioned he might have some original Blue Note pressings, and I wanted to get there early. I was packing a backpack with records for trading when Amanda emerged from the bedroom at 9. She was wearing weekend clothes, comfortable jeans, and a sweater. So what are we doing today? I zipped up the backpack. I'm going to the swap meet. Not sure what you're doing. We always do things together on Saturdays. Do we? I shouldered the backpack. Or do I always plan things for us to do together? She didn't answer, just stood there in the hallway. I figured someone who isn't drawn to me probably wouldn't want to spend their free time with me. Seems awkward for both of us. That's not fair. What's not fair about it? You told me how you feel. I'm adjusting my behavior accordingly. I grabbed my keys and wallet from the table by the door. Feel free to make your own plans. I spent 4 hours at the swap meet, browsing through crates of vinyl, talking gear with other collectors, trading a few albums. Found a mint copy of John Coltrane's Blue Train that I'd been hunting for. The guy who had it wanted to talk about cartridge alignment for 20 minutes, but it was worth it. The whole morning felt peaceful in a way Saturday mornings hadn't felt in a long time. When I got home late afternoon, the apartment felt different. Empty in a way it hadn't been before. Amanda had clearly been there all day by herself. I could see she'd started watching something on Netflix and abandoned it. Her phone was on the coffee table. She'd called Julie. Probably made up some excuse for my absence at the birthday dinner. Sunday afternoon, I was deep into the Marantz restoration. Had Miles Davis playing softly through my working speakers while I replaced capacitors on the amp board. It was delicate work, required focus. I'd been at it for 3 hours when I heard a knock on the workshop door. Amanda came in without waiting for an answer. She was wearing that green dress, the one I'd complimented her in about a year ago. She was holding a beer, condensation beating on the bottle. Thought you might want a drink. I looked up from the circuit board. Thanks. I accepted the beer and took a sip, then went back to my work. She didn't leave. Instead, she leaned against my workbench in a way that showed off her legs. You've been in here all day. The receiver needs work. These capacitors are 40 years old. Maybe I could help? She moved closer, into my personal space. I set down my soldering iron and looked at her directly. I thought you weren't drawn to me. Can a wife spend time with her husband? Can she? I leaned back in my chair. Because last Thursday you made it crystal clear that being drawn to me was an issue for you. Now you're in here dressed like that, wearing perfume I haven't smelled in months, standing very close to someone you're not drawn to. That seems contradictory. I'm just trying to be nice. Or you're trying to manipulate the situation, trying to use physical attraction to make up for the lack of emotional attraction you confess to. Her face flushed. That's not what I'm doing. Then what are you doing? She didn't answer, just stood there for another moment, then set the beer down on the workbench and left the workshop. I heard her footsteps on the stairs, heard the bedroom door close. I picked up the soldering iron and went back to work. Miles Davis played on. First moment of genuine peace I'd felt in days. Monday evening, I came home from work with a plan. I went straight upstairs, pulled an overnight bag from the closet, and started packing. Grabbed several changes of clothes, toiletries, my tablet, and charger. I was methodical about it. Not rushed, not angry. Just efficient. Amanda appeared in the bedroom doorway. She'd been watching TV downstairs and must have heard me moving around. What are you doing? Moving to the guest room. Her face went pale. Why? It seems inappropriate for someone who isn't drawn to me to share intimate space with me. This isn't that kind of relationship anymore. That's not fair. We're married. Are we? In the ways that matter? I folded another shirt and placed it in the bag. What's not fair is expecting me to sleep next to someone who doesn't want me there. I never said I didn't want you there. I stopped packing and looked at her. You said you're not drawn to me. Same result. When you're drawn to someone, you want to be close to them. You want to share space with them. You made it clear that's not how you feel. She grabbed the door frame like she needed the support. People will think something's wrong with us. Something is wrong with us. You said so yourself Thursday night. What am I supposed to tell people? My friends? My family? Tell them the truth. Or don't tell them anything. Not my concern anymore. This is crazy. You're being extreme. I'm being logical. If we're not drawn to each other, then we shouldn't be sharing a bed. Would you want to sleep next to someone you weren't drawn to every night? Someone who might want intimacy from you that you don't want to give? She opened her mouth, then closed it. No answer. I zipped up the bag and picked up a stack of books from my nightstand. I'll get the rest of my things over the next few days. No rush. I walked past her into the hallway and down to the guest room at the end. It was smaller, just a queen bed and a dresser, but it had its own bathroom. I'd slept in here maybe 3 times in 5 years when I'd been sick and didn't want to keep her awake. I unpacked my clothes into the dresser, arranged my books on the nightstand, plugged in my phone charger. Made it livable. Amanda stood in the doorway of the master bedroom, watching me go back and forth, her expression shifting from anger to confusion to something that looked like panic. When I was done, I closed the guest room door and lay down on the bed. Through the wall, I could hear her moving around the master bedroom, opening drawers, closing them, walking back and forth. Eventually, I heard her get into bed. I picked up my tablet and started reading. First night sleeping separately in 5 years of marriage. I expected to feel sad or uncertain. Instead, I felt a strange sense of relief. I slept better than I had in months. Tuesday evening, I got home from work and changed into comfortable clothes. I'd been thinking about this documentary on the history of vinyl records that I'd bookmarked weeks ago. Seemed like a good evening to finally watch it. I settled onto the couch in the living room and started the show. About 10 minutes in, Amanda came downstairs. She'd changed out of her work clothes too, wearing yoga pants and an old t-shirt. She sat down on the couch next to me. At first, she just sat there, watching the documentary. Then slowly, she started moving closer. Put her hand on my chest, leaned into my side. I could feel her trying to curl up against me the way she used to on movie nights. I paused the show. What are you doing? Nothing. Just watching TV with my husband. I gently moved her hand away from my chest. Would you want someone you're not drawn to putting their hands on you? That's different. How is it different? I don't know. It just is. We're married. Married people touch each other. Married people who are drawn to each other touch each other. I said. If the attraction isn't mutual, then physical contact becomes something else entirely. It becomes uncomfortable. For both people. You're being ridiculous. I'm making sure you're comfortable. You're not drawn to me. That means you probably don't want me touching you, and I definitely don't want to make you uncomfortable by assuming you want that kind of contact. She stared at me for a long moment, then moved to the other end of the couch. Sat there with her arms crossed, not watching the documentary anymore, just sitting in angry silence. After about 10 minutes, she got up and went upstairs without saying goodnight. I heard the bedroom door close. I finished the documentary in peace. Wednesday morning, I woke early as usual for my run. The October weather was perfect, cool, and crisp. I pushed through my usual route in Balboa Park, then came home and showered. When I came downstairs, I stopped in the kitchen doorway. Amanda had been up for a while, clearly. The kitchen table was covered with food. Pancakes stacked high, bacon perfectly crisp, scrambled eggs, fresh fruit cut into a bowl, orange juice in a pitcher. She was still in her pajamas, standing by the stove with a spatula, looking proud of herself. I made breakfast. I walked to the coffee maker and poured myself a cup. I see that. Your favorites. All of them. Already ate. Had a protein shake after my run. I took a sip of coffee. Her face fell. Can't you just sit and eat with me? I spent an hour making all this. Why would I do that? Because we're married. Because we used to have breakfast together on weekends. I leaned against the counter. When we used to have breakfast together, you were drawn to me. Things are different now. You established that last Thursday. Can't we just pretend things are normal for one morning? Just sit and eat like we used to? Pretend. I set down my coffee cup. You want me to pretend you're drawn to me so we can have pancakes together? You want me to pretend we have something we don't have? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Because it sounds like you want all the benefits of being married to someone without actually wanting them. You want the coffee in bed and the weekend breakfasts and the planned activities, but you don't want the person providing them. She held the spatula like she didn't know what to do with it. You're twisting my words. I'm not twisting anything. I'm just being clear about what you told me. I grabbed my keys from the hook. You should eat that breakfast. It looks good. You worked hard on it. I left for work. In the rearview mirror, I could see our apartment building getting smaller. I imagined her standing there in the kitchen with all that food, finally understanding that words have consequences. Thursday evening, exactly 1 week after she'd made her announcement, I came home to find her waiting at the kitchen table. Papers were spread out in front of her, organized into neat piles. She had a calculator, a notepad with figures written in her handwriting, highlighter marks on various documents. She looked up when I walked in, and there was something different in her expression. A kind of calculated determination. We need to talk about finances. I set down my keys and my laptop bag. What about them? If we're living like roommates now, we should split expenses like roommates. It only makes sense. I walked over to the table and looked at the papers. She'd broken down our monthly expenses. Mortgage, utilities, groceries, insurance, streaming services, everything. Interesting timing for this conversation. What do you mean? We've been married 5 years. You've never once suggested splitting expenses. We've always just pooled our money and paid bills from our joint account. But now, after a week of me treating you like someone who isn't drawn to me, suddenly you want to talk about money? If we're not acting like a married couple anymore, we shouldn't have married couple finances either. It's logical. Fair enough. I pulled out my phone and opened the calculator app. Let's do this properly then. I assume you want to split everything 50-50? She pushed a piece of paper toward me. I calculated it. Your half comes to about $1,200 a month. I looked at her calculations, then back at my phone. That's not how roommates typically split expenses. What do you mean? Roommates split based on income. The person who makes more pays more. That's the fair way to do it. She blinked. I meant split it evenly. Why would we split it evenly? I make about 65% of our combined household income. By standard roommate rules, you should pay 65% of the shared expenses. I showed her my phone screen. That brings your portion to about $2,100 a month. Her confident expression wavered. That's not. I can't afford $2,100 a month. Then maybe we should reconsider this roommate arrangement you're proposing. I sat down across from her. Or maybe you should consider that married couples share expenses because they're building a life together, not just cohabitating. They combine resources because they're a team, because they're drawn to each other and want to build something together. You're being petty. This is petty. I'm being consistent. You want to fundamentally change the nature of our relationship, but you only want to change the parts that benefit you. You want to stop being treated like a wife, but you still want the financial benefits of marriage. That's not how it works. She gathered up her papers, crumpling some of them in her frustration. Fine. Forget the money thing. Already forgotten. I stood up and went to the refrigerator to start making dinner. She sat there at the table for another minute, staring at her ruined calculations. Then she got up and went upstairs without another word. I made myself pasta with marinara sauce. Ate it alone at the table where she'd tried to negotiate new terms for a marriage she'd already damaged. For the first time since this started, she looked genuinely shaken. Saturday afternoon, I'd been out all day, visiting record shops and getting coffee with a friend from the audiophile community. When I came home, the apartment was transformed. Candles lit, soft music playing, something cooking in the oven. Amanda had changed into a nice dress. I thought we could have a nice dinner, like we used to. I took in the scene. Why? Can't I do something nice for my husband? The husband you're not drawn to? Maybe I was wrong about that. I studied her face carefully. Were you wrong? Or are you just uncomfortable with the results of being honest? She didn't answer. What changed between last Thursday and today? I don't know. I started thinking about it differently. You started thinking about it differently after a week of not having coffee in bed, not having me plan your weekends, not sharing a bedroom. That's not the same as actually being drawn to me. How is that different? One is about wanting me. The other is about wanting what I provide. I went to the guest room. She ate dinner alone, blew out the candles. The apartment felt emptier than it had all week. Sunday morning she knocked on my door. When I opened it, she had 2 cups of coffee. Her expression was more vulnerable than I'd seen in years. Can we talk? Really talk this time? I gestured to the chair by the window. She sat down, cradling her coffee. I've been thinking about what you said. About missing you versus missing what you did for me. I waited. I think you might be right. I think I got comfortable. I stopped seeing you. And what changed? This week, when you stopped doing all those things, I realized. You realized what you were missing. No, I realized what I had. So, when did you become drawn to me again? She looked confused. What? Last Thursday, you were certain you weren't drawn to me. Today you're certain you are. What changed? I told you. I started paying attention again. Or you started missing the benefits of being married to someone who was drawn to you. She stared into her coffee cup. If I went back to bringing you coffee, planning our weekends, sleeping in our bed, how long before you'd take it for granted again? I wouldn't. How do you know? Because this week showed me what I'd lose. But you only learned that after I pulled back. What happens in 6 months when the lesson fades? She had no answer. She left the room without speaking. I knew then it was over. Monday afternoon, I left work early. Drove downtown to an attorney's office on Broadway. The consultation was brief. He asked if we tried counseling. I told him counseling can't make someone feel something they don't feel. He nodded like he'd heard it before. That evening, Amanda knew something was different the moment I walked in. Where were you? I had an appointment. What kind of appointment? I met with a divorce attorney. Her face went white. You what? Just to understand our options. Just to talk. You can't be serious. I'm very serious. Whether you realize it or not, we're already living like divorced people. We just haven't made it official. But I told you I made a mistake. I told you I am drawn to you. After nearly 2 weeks of missing what I brought to your life. That's not the same as wanting me in your life. Yes, it is. No, it's not. And until you understand the difference, we don't have anything to build on. I sat down across from her. The attorney said we could file for an uncontested divorce. Split everything fairly, both walk away clean. It would take about 6 months. I don't want a divorce. Then you want it alone. Because I'm done. She started crying. First time I'd seen her cry through all of this. She followed me to the guest room, pleading. I closed the door gently but firmly. The next 4 days were a blur of escalating attempts. Her sister Julie called Tuesday. I politely told her it was between me and Amanda. Wednesday, Amanda tried making me jealous, mentioning some guy from work asked her to lunch. I told her she should go. She wasn't drawn to me anyway. Thursday, she found a therapist and begged me to go. Therapy can't manufacture attraction, I said. Friday, her mother called. I was polite but firm. I'm sorry she's upset, but this is our decision. That evening, I was packing more things to the guest room. She watched from the hallway, exhausted from a week of failed attempts. Is there anything I can say to change your mind? You could have said you were drawn to me and meant it. You could have said it before you lost the benefits of being married to me. But you didn't. I'm saying it now. Now you're saying what you think I want to hear. That's not the same thing. I looked at her one last time. For what it's worth, I hope you find someone who genuinely excites you. Someone you don't have to remind yourself to appreciate. What about you? I'll be fine. Turns out there are plenty of people in the world who don't need to think twice about whether they're drawn to me. 4 months later, I was shopping at the Whole Foods on University Avenue in Hillcrest. The divorce had been finalized 6 weeks earlier. I'd moved into a one-bedroom near Balboa Park and was hosting some friends from the audiophile community that evening. I was in the produce section when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Nathan. Hi. I turned. Amanda looked tired, heavier than I remembered, her hair less maintained. Her cart was full of frozen meals. Amanda, how are you? Good. Great. Really great. She clearly wasn't. You look good. Thanks. I've been meaning to reach out. About what? About us. About everything. I think I made a huge mistake. You made the decision you thought was right at the time. But I was wrong. About the whole drawn to you thing. I know that now. Okay. She waited like she expected more. That's it. Just okay? What else would you like me to say? That maybe you miss me too? That we could try again? I hope you find what you're looking for. What if what I'm looking for is you? Then you should have thought about that before you threw it away. She looked down at her cart. Dating is horrible. Men my age are either divorced with issues or never married for obvious reasons. I'm sure you'll figure it out. Will I? Because I had a good one and I ruined it. I compare everyone to you now. Sounds like a personal problem. She flinched like I'd slapped her. You're different. Colder. I'm the same person I always was. You just see me differently now that you can't take me for granted. I never took you. Yes, you did. That was the whole problem. I saw someone approaching from the corner of my eye. A woman about my age with a bright smile, carrying ingredients. Found the good balsamic. She stopped when she saw Amanda. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt. You're not. Amanda, this is Kira. Kira, this is Amanda. We used to be married. Kira was polite, but not warm. Nice to meet you. Amanda stared at her, then back at me. We should finish shopping. People coming at 6. I looked at Amanda one last time. Take care of yourself. Kira and I walked away together. I could feel Amanda standing there alone in the produce section, watching us laugh about something. The natural ease between us. Everything she'd lost. That evening, my apartment was full of friends, good food, vintage jazz playing through the restored audio equipment that lined my living room. Kira helped host naturally, comfortably, like she'd been doing it for years. I never told her about running into Amanda. Didn't seem relevant. She'd asked once about my marriage, why it ended. I told her my ex-wife said she wasn't drawn to me anymore. Kira looked at me like I'd said something impossible. Her loss, she said, and meant it. That's the difference. Kira never has to remind herself to want me. She never questions whether she's drawn to me. It's just there, obvious, easy. Sometimes I wonder if Amanda found someone, but not enough to ask around. Her problems stopped being my problems the moment she decided I wasn't worth wanting. I'm doing exactly what I told her I'd do. I'm fine. Better than fine. Turns out there's a whole world of people who don't need to think twice about whether they're drawn to me. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.